Hey guys, it's Rachel Castile and welcome to Typology Corner. Today I'm doing an overview video on the ISFJ personality type, and I'll be covering it from the perspective of objective personality, which will be the standard and the jumper version. So the cognitive functions of this type is introverted sensing, extroverted feeling, introverted thinking, and then extroverted intuition. So I'm primarily going to explore what that looks like from the perspective of the cognitive functions to see really the inner workings of this type. So the ISFJ is considered an organized type. That is, their primary human need is to organize their life, to make sense of their experiences. And introverted sensing is their dominant process. And with that function, that's how they are doing that. So they're very attuned to their past experiences, things that they've walked through, things that were very real for them, things that were the sensory information that they retained. However, that impression was left on them from the past, they really remember that and are guided by those experiences or their conclusions on those experiences more so. So, yeah, they have a strong associative memory. Something could be, could have been negative to them. It, could be positive, and however they categorize that, they have a tendency to live according to that, to make sense of it, to organize it, and then to organize their life by the order they've created and how they have concluded on their past experiences. So they can become like traditional in the sense of honoring the past, honoring what life has taught them, honoring like nostalgic feelings in a sense. They can really appreciate re-experiencing something in the now that reminds them of a really great moment in the past. Or, hey, I watched these type of movies when I was a kid, so going back to that and getting to re-experience that childhood moment as an adult can be very fulfilling to an introverted sensor dom like the ISFJ. So that is an aspect of them. What else can I say about that? So yeah, J types have introverted observation. So this is dominantly an observer type and not a decider. But so I say that to say it just more so infers that they are inclined to honor that introverted experience, what they retained from the experiences to order their life. So it makes them an organizing type. And that's what the J does represent, even though J really means like decider technically, but their dominant process is an observer function. But yeah, so it's just a bit of a technicality there. But so yeah, they're leading with an organizing process, and above all else, above the other three functions, they are honoring their past experience. And a way this can manifest is they can, avoid things that were negative and want to take that out of their life. They are very prone to wanting to have like a sense of peace in their life. And this introverted sensing, they literally feel this on a body level, because as they encounter things in their environment, it's all having a trigger or a flashback. There's something associated to the things in their environment. It can be positive associations or negative associations. And so there is a tendency to order, that's going back into creating order, to have peace in their body, in their environment. They very much sense when something's making them feel uneasy, if something's associated to something negative. So their past experiences can affect them a lot if it's something that they need to deal with and process differently. That could really help them a lot. But their tendency is to reorganize their life so that the things that have negative associations are not actually in their environment, so that what is around them only triggers the good feelings in their body from their past. So that's an element of how that introverted sensing is functioning for them, especially as a dominant function. Other types can relate to this that have this function in their four, but in ISFJ, this is the dominant process. So I'm going into this, kind of elaborating on this because it's very relevant for them. So beyond that point, we have extroverted feeling, then introverted thinking, and extroverted intuition at the bottom. So when we're looking at the jumper and the standard type, they each lead with that same dominant process. And then their inferior process, they both relate to the life struggle of choosing the known information that is in their box over taking in new information and gathering, with the extroverted intuition at the bottom. Extroverted intuition is exploring new ideas, something that's unrelated to the known information. It's new possibilities. And ISFJ's tendency is to refer back to what is known, what, is the tried and true, the processes that work for them, their ways of doing things. It's kind of like, it's not broken, so we don't need to fix it. It's working. They have that tendency to create order out of what is known, reference the past, what's worked in the past, to implement the now, to live in the now based on the past, or to order the future based on the past. And so yeah, that's a planning type who will plan the future based on past things, walk in the present based on past things, and to keep re-implementing those same systems built by referencing that, sort of information. So as you can see, living that sort of lifestyle is different than new ideas, things that's never been attempted. That's what that extroverted intuition is at the bottom. And that is a growth path for them to step out and get totally new experiences, and that'll kind of update that introverted sensing. The more they're willing to explore and gather in new stuff, they will evolve beyond just recreating the tried and true, in a sense. But yeah, that's kind of the life imbalance, that growth for them. It's kind of updating those files with moving around and trying new stuff is a very healthy thing for ISFJs to do. So like I was saying, the jumper and the standard type, that is something that's true for both. And now I'm going to get into kind of articulating this middle ground. So here's a visual aid to help you see the two types within objective personality. So up here at the top, we have our standard type, with these being the savior functions, which is what Myers-Briggs really says, or that sort of research on the types is as though this is what all ISFJs kind of look like, having the first process, introverted sensing, as a savior, then extroverted feeling as a savior, and then these being the two that are what objective personality calls demon functions, the ones that are not being chosen as a result of these being chosen. So yeah, that's our standard type at the top. And then down here, we've got our jumper type, which is another option and very common manifestation of the ISFJ, is a more introverted type that is jumping the extroverted feeling and choosing the introverted thinking as a savior. So that would be SITI type right here. This is the type of ISFJ we have here. So I'm just going to kind of compare and contrast and kind of describe what this can look like. So when we're looking at the standard ISFJ, they are prioritizing extroverted feeling. So extroverted feeling is a tribe-oriented function. It is focused on the outside world. It's focused on the people around them, the values of people. That introverted sensing is remembering lots of things about people, so that they can serve people better, so that they remember what people, what foods they like, what things they enjoy, what things they don't enjoy, what things, is valuable to the people around them. That introverted sensing remembers all those details very easily about people. It's that database on everything that does matter to them. And a high extroverted feeling prioritizing type that the standard ISFJ is They are remembering what people value and listening for that, and are serving people, meeting the needs of the people around them based on what they've remembered. So again, the dominant process, all the other processes serve the dominant one primarily. So for the ISFJ, it's going to look different than an ESFJ who is leading with extroverted feeling first and foremost. This type is relying on things you've told them, the things that they've experienced with you. They saw your reactions about stuff. They saw what you valued. They remembered it. And they, when it comes to making a decision, they are factoring in the people. They heard, hey, this bothers this person, or this is something that this person enjoys, and I'm going to make a decision based on that. Primarily, I'm checking in with the, the group, whoever that group is, the other person in the situation, the family, the coworkers, the community, whatever group they're in. Excuse me. Extroverted feeling is considering the tribe. This will also make them more validation seeking, because their decisions are made based on getting feedback from other people in order to accommodate and to factor the people in. That's mainly what extroverted feeling is. It is not making a decision for the self. It's making a decision that is, most beneficial based on what information you've collected from the other people. So yeah, so that's what it looks like as a savior, having extroverted feeling as the savior. So still continuing on the standard type. So then that would have TI being the third function as a demon. And what that can manifest like is that ISFJ is aware of their own personal truths, their own personal logic, their own personal reasons. But when push come to shove, like what they're making decisions on more easily, what comes more natural to them is the accommodating process over just the personal reasons, the personal truths. Yeah, that would feel a bit more uncomfortable to make a personal decision apart from the collective, at the expense of the collective, to stay true to the self in a sense. So that TI is a much more self-oriented, self-knowing identity process. So yeah, your standard ISFJ is more in tune with the people, serving the people, and they're a little more out of touch with their own personal, like where they stand on something. And because their time is being put into knowing the group, knowing the people around them, and serving them, being there for them, meeting the needs of the people, being aware of the needs. That extroverted feeling, like they're very much in tune with the emotions of the people around them, and are somewhat lifting the spirits of the people around them, creating harmony with the people around them through their knowledge of those people. And somewhat of a trait of the ISFJ, they serve and add value to people's lives in very practical ways, like cooking them a meal, checking in on them, calling them, just practical, like real life experiences with people, and meeting the needs that are apparent in that kind of caregiver sort of way. Like they like to really like do life with people in that sense. Helping in a more tangible way is kind of what that looks like, because it's serving that past oriented, introverted sensing. I remember this about you, I remember this about you, and I'm going to honor this. You value chocolates, so I'm going to buy you chocolates. Like it's retaining information about the people around them, and then serving based on what they, have come to know about the people around them. And so that's kind of what that looks like. And then it, I use this example because it's easy. I probably say it a bunch, but it's like hearing what the group and where they want to go eat, like the 5 different people, they all want to go eat at this certain place. Extroverted feeling would then make a decision because they see the consensus of that and would go with that. TI in more of a savior position. I guess at this point, let's move on to the ISFJ that is the jumper type. So I'll demonstrate what this looks like being the savior as opposed to extroverted feeling. So your ISFJ, who is a jumper type, they more so honor this introverted world. They're more in touch with the self. They both are very in touch with their past experiences, that associative memory on everything. They both have that in common, but this jumper type, it's much easier for them to know the self, know their own personal reasons for something, maintain their personal reasons. And it's easier for them to say, no, guys, y'all going and go to that restaurant. I want to eat something different today. I got my own reasons for what I'm wanting to do, and I'm going to stay true to my reasons. This ISFJ is much more in touch with where they personally fall on the spectrum of things. And in comparison, they are aware of the people. Again, this extroverted feeling is a strong function in even the jumper type, but it feels more comfortable, and this is the muscle they use more often, is honoring the identity, the self. They are just more in touch with where they fall on the spectrum, in a sense, or they're less aware of the spectrum and just aware of the self. So the extroverted feeler is in tune with the spectrum. I think that'd be a better way of describing that. And the TI type is more in tune with the self reasons, didn't factor in the collective, the spectrum, in order to make a decision. So something else that can manifest as, let's see, another example of a jumper type. So when you think of SI, it's what works for them. That's a major categorizing function in of itself. It's an organizing process. When you pair that with TI as a savior, TI is your own personal logic, your personal systems, your personal reasons for doing things. This TI can make a person like this, who is already particular in wanting things a certain way that honors the past experiences, the past, like what works for them, all the more so the ISFJ that is very in touch with the self here will have their systems even more put together in a particular way, and they're ever refining it more and more. So the TI process is strong in both of the ISFJs. Again, another thing to highlight, that dominant observer types, which are the IJs and the EPs, they are double deciders in the middle. So whichever one is a savior to them, they both see them very well. So they can be very balanced and notice, like, okay, I do still see the tribe, even though I am more self over tribe. And this one's like, I do see the self, but I make decisions on behalf of the tribe more often. So yeah, that being said, this type has a good awareness of both, but in what they're observing, this type is more focused on the creating of their personal reasons, their personal truths, their personal understandings of things. And they're making decisions on this. They can be more independent in that way, I think. They're more grounded in the self and are more guided by those internal systems that they're building. And they wind up, what your saviors are becomes like that super value that you add to the world around you, because that's the muscle you've been exercising your whole life, so you carry more like wisdom in that area. So this type is very in tune with people, and they are, I'll use the word caregiver. They're very in touch with how to be good to people, because they remember so much about people, and they're in tune with people. They've got a lot of success in having those two processes working all of the time. This is the observer, this is the decider. For this one, this is their observer, and this is their chosen decider. So think of it that way in distinguishing these types from each other. It's where do you put your time? It's not what you have an ability to do. It's just where have you put your time in? And, it's a different level of mastery in a different area. So Yeah, so just to kind of elaborate a little bit more, this type is going to be very systems oriented, creating systems for things, systems that work, that honor the things that they've seen. They're always factoring in all the experiences they've had, the experiences of other people, like these types are retainers of experience. Theirs, others, anything that they hear is all being meshed together, and it's all a picture that they very much can access all of these different experiences. And then they're creating systems that work for them, systems of understanding their experiences. They're going to be just in touch with the self, in touch with everything they've been through means a lot to them. And they're not one to miss the life lesson from it, in a sense. They're like, no, I learned this and I know this. So they're very strong in that sense of knowing based on what they've been through. Even stronger. This type has that as well, but they're more others guided. They're more others focused in the way they make decisions. So that J up here, as I mentioned before, they are a J type, and that's just showing they're making a decision based on others, technically. So this is a jumper type. So this is kind of a ISFJ that is more ISFP-like in a sense. But I wouldn't call this type an ISFP because that would change its functions. This type very well still has the ISFJ function stack. It's just they're in tune with this inner world more. So this type has a deeper, I wouldn't say deeper, but they are much more in touch with their introverted processes than the extroverted processes. It doesn't make them antisocial. It doesn't make them not, how do I describe that? It doesn't have to manifest in a certain behavior. It's just where they're putting their time. So this type can look more introverted than this type. Or they are honoring the personal aspects, the subjective things, instead of the objective. I think that's a better way to describe it because it's not behavioral related. I'm not describing behavior. Behavior kind of comes down to the animal stack in like what order in which they're doing these things. Now they can start to look introverted or look extroverted, because you could have this type who is still like blast first, and they'll still be out talking to the tribe all the time, sharing this inner world with everyone a lot, because blasters are teachers. They're, they take this inside that's very well known and defined and blast it. So again, I'm not analyzing introversion. These are both introvert types. It's just looking at what the savior process is. So having like established that, once you know what your saviors are, you also know your growth path, because what you don't choose as saviors is the functions that are weaker. That's the muscle you're not using. It doesn't mean you don't have those muscles. It's just if you only work out upper body, your legs are going to be weak. That's what this looks like. Saviors and demons has to do with what do you exercise. These types have all of these 4 functions. So our standard type needs to work out their TI and get more defined on the identity and be able to honor the identity, honor their own personal reasons, define their own truths, and not just follow what other people have concluded on, and honoring what other people value and what people like, what is popular, things of that nature. It is good for them to get alone with the self and to define their own beliefs, their own reasons, and just, come to that conclusion. This is a decider function to be able to make more self-identity related decisions, to kind of balance those, because they're very good at this. They're very in tune with people. So growth for them is being more in tune with the self and to get a good balance that they can know where they stand on something, and it can help them serve people better in a way that's not totally self-sacrificing, at the expense of the self, which is a tendency of an extroverted feeler to be out of touch with themselves. And then the extroverted intuition, as I mentioned before, is to branch out, get some new experiences that's totally unrelated to the things that they've done in the past. And the more they can experience and step into new possibilities, try out new ideas, kind of expand beyond things that they've done, they start to bring more color in their life. They get more joy in that sense of some spice in their life that then is now new experiences that do live in the introverted sensing. And this gets even more richer here. So that database gets updated by going out and gather new things, hearing new ideas, hearing new thoughts, something that's unrelated to what their past has taught them, is very helpful. So both ISFJs, that is blatantly a demon, but it doesn't mean not accessible. It's just they have a high tendency to reference this, which causes them to miss that they're not even factoring this in. Bringing in the new could be something that they avoid unconsciously, and the more conscious that process becomes for them, and they find ways to bring that new, gather in new for their life, it really can enrich just the person that they are and get them to tap into all of who they are in the sense. And then our jumper type down here, growth for them is factoring in the tribe more often and being aware of the collective, being aware of what people like and dislike, and kind of seeing that between knowing the self, but knowing the tribe, and learning to serve others and not only just checking in with the self and the self alone, in a sense. So I don't have too much more to say on that, but that's the general idea, is work the other muscle, work the one that is the other option within your cognitive processes, and they'll be balanced there. So the more an identity person checks in with the group, it allows them to have new feedback, new incoming information into their life that could potentially help them, to update their identity, having looked outside of themselves and saw what the group is doing, saw what the group is valuing. Because that TI can be like, no, this works for me. I don't even need to consider another way. I am totally content with my own way. TI can be that way, where it's like, hey, this is my reasons, and I just want to defend that, live in it, do it, and that's my way, and this is how it is. That's me. This is how I am. TI is my dominant decision-making function as an ESTP, so highly relate to this. So looking out at that other process, it gives you an opportunity to see, okay, I did scan the whole horizon and I still like my personal reasons, and that's totally fine too. So again, having TI as a savior, that is the tendency. So it's that checking in, it's learning to see the needs of the people and try to meet their needs as well with the knowledge that you have. I think that's one of the biggest things. Like, yeah, as you define your truths, see if your truths can serve the collective. I think that's probably the best way to describe what it looks like to start incorporating this demon process, so it's not so weak. And that's probably what the path looks like, is there's a lot of mastery in this. If you can start to serve the collective with this information, you're now becoming balanced. You're adding value to the people around you, and not just purely living by your own thing and with not much extroverted impact. And by extrovert, I just mean impact on the world around you outside of yourself. That it becomes the contribution that you're made to bring to the world. So that is kind of the gift of being like a totally savior introverted world, is you become very well defined internally. And then as you learn how to serve the world around you with that information, that's when you really are walking in a more fulfilling purpose with being this type of person. And this person is already self and tribe, kind of in touch with the extroverted world and the self, but they will get a lot of benefit by getting more in touch with the identity, because what they're serving will also be honoring them too, and not just people pleasing in a sense alone. It'll be more grounded in the self and their personal identity. When they do go to serve, it may alter who they do serve or what causes they give themselves to, because they factored in their own belief system personally and not just what everybody around them believes or something. They can be more grounded and then choose where they want to be with the gifting that they are as a true giver and caregiver of others. So yeah, I think that is a pretty good overview of the two types of how the functions flow. I like to say this in my videos that, you know, the cognitive processes, it's the inner workings of the type, and there's so much more to say on the types. There's so many videos out there that cover lots of nuances about the types. But in this series, I just want to kind of communicate the essence, the inner workings, the tendencies, and kind of highlight the growth paths of the ISFJ in this video. So, all right, guys, that is it for this video. If you got value out of it, go on and give me a thumbs up. I greatly appreciate the feedback, and subscribe for future content. Also, I do recommend checking out my cognitive function series to just expand on understanding the cognitive functions of the ISFJ, just to see it from another perspective, like piece by piece. The more you know the pieces, the more you can see how they interact together to make the unique person that you are, or whoever you're interested in understanding more about. So, but yeah, that is about it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.